Ma'am, just show me some ID and we can clear this up.
No, I don't have to show you ID for walking on a public sidewalk. I know my rights.
You're being uncooperative. That makes me more suspicious.
I'm Dr. Tamara Wallace. I'm the principal of Northside High School. I've lived in this house for 7 years, and I'm not showing you ID because I haven't done anything wrong.
The body camera pinned to Officer Jason Miller's uniform was capturing everything in sharp, high-definition detail. Every sound, every look, every second of what was about to turn into the most costly dog walk the Westchester County Police Department had ever dealt with. The woman standing on the sidewalk in her casual sweater and jeans wasn't running. She wasn't hiding a thing. She wasn't doing anything except standing outside her own house with her dog resting quietly at her side. She was Dr. Tamara Wallace, 51 years old, principal of one of New York's top public high schools, a respected educator with a doctorate in educational leadership, and someone who had just spent the last 2 weeks guiding a district-wide project on diversity and inclusion. And now she was moments away from being detained in her own neighborhood for the simple act of existing while black. Before we go any further, drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from. And if you believe people should walk their own streets without being challenged, hit that subscribe button right now. This body cam footage is going to make you furious. Tamara Wallace had lived in the Willowbrook neighborhood for 7 years. It was a peaceful suburban pocket in Westchester County, New York. Tree-lined streets with tall oaks hanging overhead, neatly kept houses with trimmed lawns, good schools, the kind of place where neighbors chatted and kids rode their bikes on the sidewalks. Tamara had worked incredibly hard to afford a home here. She had completed her bachelor's degree while holding a full-time job as a teaching assistant. She earned her master's degree while raising 2 kids as a single mother. She finished her doctorate in educational leadership while serving as a vice principal, typing her dissertation during brief moments between meetings. Now she was the principal of Northside High School, a role she had kept for 4 years. Under her guidance, the school's graduation rate had climbed by 12%. The achievement gap among different student groups had narrowed. She earned a solid salary. She paid her mortgage without delay. She actively took part in the community, serving on the neighborhood association board. That Tuesday afternoon, Tamara had taken the day off for a routine medical appointment, a simple yearly checkup. She drove home around 2:30, changed into relaxed clothes, and chose to take her dog Charlie on a walk. Charlie was a 6-year-old golden retriever she had adopted from a nearby shelter. Gentle, obedient, the kind of dog who wagged his tail at anyone who smiled at him. Tamara walked Charlie around the block, the same loop they followed every day. They had just turned onto their street and were nearing their house when a patrol car rolled up. Officer Jason Miller stepped out. He was 29 years old, 3 years into the job, and he had just received a call about a suspicious person in the area. The call came from a resident 2 streets away. The neighbor claimed a black woman was walking around and didn't look like she belonged. That was the whole report. A black woman who didn't look like she belonged. Miller responded. When he noticed Tamara walking her dog, he assumed she was the person in question. "Ma'am, can you stop for a moment?" Tamara paused and turned. Charlie sat beside her, his tail drifting side to side. "Yes, officer. Is something wrong?" "What are you doing in this neighborhood?" The question struck Tamara like a blow. It wasn't the first time she had heard it, not the first time someone hinted she didn't belong in the place she called home. Tamara kept her tone steady and even. "I live here. I'm walking my dog. This is Charlie. We take this same route every afternoon." Miller glanced at Tamara, then at the nearby homes, then back at her. "You live in this neighborhood? In one of these houses?" "Yes, officer. That's my house right there. The one with the blue door and the flower pots on the porch. You can see my car parked in the driveway." "Do you have any identification that proves you live there?" Tamara felt the usual tightness press against her chest. "Why would I need ID to walk my dog on my own street? I'm standing outside my own house on a public sidewalk. What law says I need to show you ID for that?" "We've received reports of suspicious activity in the area." Tamara looked at Charlie, still sitting quietly, tail moving gently. "Suspicious activity? Like walking a friendly golden retriever in broad daylight? What's supposed to be suspicious about what I'm doing right now?" "I just need to verify your identity, ma'am." And I need you to explain what law I've broken that requires me to identify myself. I haven't done anything wrong. I'm walking on a public sidewalk in New York State. I'm not required to give my ID unless you have reasonable suspicion that I committed a specific offense. So, what's your reasonable suspicion? Have you ever been stopped in your own area for no legitimate reason? Type yes or no below. Miller shifted his hand onto his duty belt. It's standard procedure when we get calls about a suspicious person. No, it isn't. You need reasonable suspicion that I committed a crime. Walking a dog doesn't qualify. So, what exact crime do you think I've committed? Ma'am, you're making this more difficult than it needs to be. I'm standing on my constitutional rights. That's not difficult. That's what we teach our students in civics class. The Fourth Amendment protects against unreasonable searches and seizures. You're detaining me right now. You need a legal reason for doing that. Miller stepped closer. The body camera captured his movement, captured Tamara refusing to back up, captured Charlie glancing between them with his tail still wiggling. "What's your name?" Miller asked, his voice sharpening. "I don't have to tell you my name without reasonable suspicion of a crime. Refusing to identify yourself can be seen as obstruction." "No, officer, it cannot. New York doesn't have a stop and identify law. I only have to give identification if you have reasonable suspicion that I committed a specific crime. You still haven't explained any actual suspicion. This is basic constitutional law. I received a call about a suspicious person in this neighborhood. Based on what exact details? What did this supposedly suspicious person do?" Miller paused. The body camera recorded the hesitation. The caller reported seeing someone who didn't appear to belong in the neighborhood. Tamara allowed those words to sit there. She wanted them clearly captured. Didn't appear to belong. And what about me makes you think I don't belong in this neighborhood? Officer, what standard are you using to decide who belongs and who doesn't? I didn't say you don't belong, but that's what the caller suggested, isn't it? Someone saw me and decided I didn't look like I belonged. So let me ask you something directly. If I were white, would we be having this conversation right now? Ma'am, I'm just responding to a call from a concerned citizen. A concerned citizen who dialed the police on a woman walking a dog. What was the concern? Was I threatening anyone? Was I trespassing? Or was the concern simply that I'm a black woman in a mostly white neighborhood? Miller's face reddened. The body camera caught every second. This isn't about race, ma'am. Then what is it about? Because I'm doing the same things white neighbors here do every single day. Walking their mail, relaxing on their porches, and no one calls the police on them. But I do the exact same things and suddenly the police show up. I'm just doing my job, responding to calls. Your job is to look into real crimes, not hassle people who aren't breaking the law because someone had a biased reaction to seeing them. I pay property taxes here. I support this community as an educator. I serve on the neighborhood association board. I've lived
here for 7 years, and I shouldn't have to defend my right to exist in front of my own house. Miller reached for his radio. The body camera recorded the motion. "This is Unit 23. I need backup at Willowbrook Drive and Maple. Uncooperative individual." Tamara's eyes widened. "You're calling backup because a woman is walking her dog and choosing not to show ID when you have no legal basis to ask for it? You're refusing to cooperate. You're the one escalating this. I'm stating my constitutional rights. You're escalating by calling backup when there's no emergency, no crime, and no threat. Ma'am, I need you to calm down." "I am calm. I'm also correct. And calling for backup proves this was never about suspicious behavior. This is about a black woman in a white neighborhood daring to stand up for her rights." 2 minutes later, a second patrol car rolled up. Officer Sandra Hayes stepped out. Hayes was a 12-year veteran, 43 years old, and she had patrolled this neighborhood for 8 years. "What's going on, Miller?" Hayes asked. "This woman is refusing to give ID. We had a suspicious person call. She's not cooperating." Hayes studied Tamara closely. She noticed the comfortable clothes, the calm golden retriever, the house with the blue door right behind them. Then her eyes widened. "Dr. Wallace?" Tamara nodded, relief washing over her. "Officer Hayes, yes, it's good to see you again." Hayes turned toward Miller, and something sharp flashed across her face. This is Dr. Tamara Wallace. She's the principal at Northside High School. She's lived in that house for 7 years. I've been to community meetings at her home. Miller's face drained of color. You know her? Everyone in this community knows her. She's on the neighborhood association board. She organizes the block party. What was this call actually about? Tamara spoke before Miller could answer. Officer Miller got a call about a suspicious person. He saw me walking my dog and assumed I was that person. He demanded ID even after I said I live here and haven't broken any law. When I stood on my Fourth Amending rights, he labeled me uncooperative and called for backup. His body camera has everything. Hayes turned toward Miller, her tone sharpened. Did you confirm her address before demanding identification? I was investigating the call by asking for ID instead of basic questions. Did you ask which house she lived in and check it? She wouldn't cooperate. Hayes lifted her radio. Dispatch, this is Unit 47. Cancel the backup request for Willowbrook and Maple. Situation is resolved. She faced Tamara. Dr. Wallace, I'm sorry this happened. You're right, it shouldn't. But this isn't the first time it's happened to me here. What do you mean? This is the 4th time I've been stopped or questioned in this neighborhood. The first time was 3 months after I moved in. I was checking my mailbox when a patrol car pulled up and an officer asked what I was doing. The second time was a year later. I was taking out my trash cans. Another officer questioned me. The third time was 2 years ago. I was getting into my own car in my driveway and an officer asked if the vehicle belonged to me. I filed a complaint for that one, never heard back. Nothing changed. So this time, I'm not letting it go. Miller finally spoke, quieter than before. Ma'am, if there was a misunderstanding, I apologize. Tamara looked at him, then at the body camera. This wasn't a misunderstanding. Your body camera recorded everything, from the moment you asked what I was doing here, to demanding ID without cause, to calling me uncooperative, to calling backup. All of it is on video. So no, I don't accept your apology. I need your department to do better. Do you think Dr. Wallace should take legal action? Tell me in the comments. Hayes stepped closer to Miller. They walked a few paces away, but the camera still picked up their low voices. Do you understand who you just detained? Hayes asked, her tone firm. I do now. She's been principal at Northside for 4 years. She won the State Educator Excellence Award. She's respected across the county. She's lived here longer than you've been on the force. And you treated her like a suspect on her own street because someone made a biased phone call. I have to respond to calls. You have to use judgment. You could have observed from your car. You could have approached politely. You could have asked if she lived here and accepted her answer. You had a dozen choices that didn't involve demanding ID and calling backup. While they talked, Tamara pulled out her phone and began typing. Dr. Wallace, Hayes said, returning to her. I sincerely apologize. Tamara lifted her eyes from her phone. I'm messaging my lawyer right now, she said. I'm asking for every second of body camera footage from this situation. I'm turning in official complaints to your department, the county, the state attorney general, and the Department of Justice. I'm also reaching out to the NAACP and the New York Civil Liberties Union because this isn't only about me. This is about repeated racial targeting. Hayes nodded. That's your right, and I believe you should follow every option available. This has to be dealt with. Hayes turned to Miller. You're being placed on administrative assignment. Go back to the station and see in with the watch commander immediately. Miller gave a quick nod and walked back to his patrol vehicle. Tamara looked at Charlie. Come on, Charlie, we're going home. She finished the short walk to her house, pushed her blue front door open, and stepped inside. She shut the door gently and leaned against it, her hands shaking now, not from fear, but from fury, from exhaustion, from 7 years of proving she deserved to live peacefully in her own community. She inhaled slowly several times, then contacted her lawyer. The lawsuit was filed 6 weeks later, 52 pages long, carefully organized with references and exact timestamps from the video footage. The complaint accused them of illegal detention, race-based targeting, violation of Fourth Amendment protections, violation of 14th Amendment equal protection rights, and intentional emotional harm. It listed Officer Jason Miller personally. It listed the Westchester County Police Department. It listed the County of Westchester. It requested $1,800,000 in damages. The county attorney's office examined the video. They watched Miller walk up to Tamara. They watched him demand ID without valid cause.
They watched him call for backup when she insisted on her rights. They watched the full exchange from beginning to end. After that, they pulled up the 3 earlier incidents Tamara mentioned, recordings they had never looked at when she submitted her first complaint. The footage revealed a clear pattern. They immediately called an urgent meeting with the police chief and the county executive. "This is a disaster," the county attorney said. "We have a respected teacher being bothered again and again in her own neighborhood. We have visible proof. We have a repeated pattern of racial profiling, and we ignored her past report." The police chief watched the footage again. "There's no defending this." The county executive agreed. "We settle quickly and we make changes." But before any deal could start, Tamara held a public press conference. She stood on the courthouse stairs with her attorney, the NAACP leader, and ACLU members. She told her experience calmly and firmly. She played short clips from the body camera footage. She explained that this wasn't one random moment, but a consistent pattern. Local reporters covered it, then regional stations, then national news. The footage spread online. Within 2 days, the video had more than 12 million views. Within a week, it passed 40 million. The hashtag #WalkingWhileBlack exploded across social media. People nationwide began sharing their own stories of being profiled where they lived. The Westchester County Police Department launched a full internal review. They looked at not just Miller's actions, but also how the department handled Tamara's earlier complaints. The investigation lasted 9 weeks. The results were harsh. Miller failed to make sound decisions. He escalated the situation without cause. He showed bias in his behavior and wording. But even worse, the department had never properly reviewed Tamara's past reports. They brushed off her concerns without checking evidence. They allowed a harmful pattern to continue. Officer Jason Miller was fired 12 weeks after the incident. The termination letter listed several violations: unlawful detention, biased policing, poor judgment, and behavior unfit for an officer. The 2 supervisors who had ignored Tamara's earlier complaints also faced consequences. One was demoted, and the other was suspended for 30 days without pay. The Department of Justice Civil Rights Division launched an investigation into the Westchester County Police Department. They discovered repeated patterns of unequal treatment based on race during stops, detentions, and uses of force. The department entered a consent decree that required major reforms: mandatory bias training, community oversight, full data tracking for all stops, routine review of body camera recordings, and federal monitoring for 5 years. Tamara's lawsuit moved to mediation 14 months after the incident. The county began with a $600,000 offer. Tamara's lawyer responded with $2 million. They agreed on a settlement of $1,650,000. Tamara donated $300,000 to groups focused on criminal justice reform and racial fairness. She used the rest to create a scholarship fund for students from underrepresented communities who wanted careers in education. Jason Miller never returned to police work. He relocated to another state and worked in sales. He gave one interview to a small podcast, insisting he had followed his training and that political correctness had destroyed his career. The body camera video later became required viewing at police academies across New York State. Law schools used it as an example when teaching about Fourth Amendment protections and racial profiling. Community groups also used the footage in their Know Your Rights workshops. One routine dog walk led to a $1 million settlement, a fired officer, several disciplinary actions, and a federal consent decree. Tamara Wallace continued her job as principal of Northside High School. She kept doing her diversity and inclusion work. She still lived in her home with the blue door, but she added security cameras around her property. She made a habit of keeping her phone ready whenever she stepped outside. She joined advocacy groups focused on police reform. In interviews, Tamara has explained that her experience is something Black Americans face every day: being questioned in the neighborhoods where we live and work, being told we don't belong in places we have every right to be, being viewed as suspicious simply for existing while Black. That is why she pushed back. That is why she released the footage. That is why she donated to organizations fighting for change. Because personal accountability matters, but long-term change comes from fixing the system. The body camera recording is still available online. You can watch it yourself. You can see a school principal calmly stating her constitutional rights while being wrongfully detained for walking her dog near her own home. You can see exactly what racial profiling looks like when it's captured clearly. You can see the moment Officer Hayes recognizes her and understands the mistake. You can see what happens when someone refuses to accept unfair suspicion. What lesson did you get from this story? Share it in the comments. And if this made you think about who is questioned and who isn't, who must prove they belong and who is automatically accepted, be sure to subscribe. This story matters because Tamara Wallace did everything society expects you to do. She earned degrees, not just a bachelor's, but a master's and a doctorate. She worked hard, not just 40 hours, but the countless extra hours teachers always give. She built a successful career, becoming a principal and improving student outcomes. She purchased a home in a safe area. She gave back to her community. She was financially secure and followed the law. And none of that stopped her from being confronted by police while walking her dog outside her own home. None of it kept neighbors from seeing her as suspicious. None of it guaranteed her basic dignity or respect. She still had to prove she belonged in a neighborhood she had lived in for 7 years and paid taxes in. She still had to state her constitutional rights while standing on her own block. She still had to suffer the embarrassment of being detained where everyone could see. Think about what that means. Think about who gets questioned on their own street and who never faces that fear. Think about who feels the need to carry ID just to pick up their mail and who would think that idea is ridiculous. Think about who is instantly accepted as belonging and who must constantly prove it. This story shows that accomplishments don't shield you from racism. Success doesn't protect you from bias. A doctorate won't stop someone from calling police because they assume you don't fit in. But this story also proves that when violations are recorded, when people refuse to stay quiet, when evidence is clear, accountability can happen. Change is possible. Not every wrongful stop ends in justice. Not every complaint creates reform. Not everyone who faces this has the time, strength, or resources to fight through the legal system. But Tamara did, and her effort brought accountability for the officer, a significant settlement, and reforms meant to prevent this from happening to others. Each case that brings accountability improves the system little by little. Thank you for watching till the end. If this helped you understand the reality of racial profiling, if it made you think about the assumptions we make about who belongs where, share it with someone who needs this message. Hit subscribe if you haven't yet. Leave a comment. Should the neighbor who made that racist call face consequences? What would true accountability look like?